Friends, it's Liz here. Today I am sharing a really fun project using the BeeBee Craft Wax Seal Kit that I recently received. I do have an unboxing video if you haven't seen it. So I'll be showing you a couple of ways that I've been using the wax seal. It was so much fun to use, but I've also learned a bunch of things along the way. I will also be working with some other BeeBee Craft items in a future project very soon, and I will show you guys that as soon as it's ready. So I do have some parchment paper, baking sheet paper here for the surface because I am working with wax and it's easy to remove um, the wax from the parchment paper surface. I had started making these handmade paper tags, and they have these little pockets in them. So I thought I would add some of the wax seal to them as well to show you the little pockets. I'm using these stickers that I got from Your Creative Studio. I have an unboxing for them as well. I'll link it below. So I've got little pockets on the front and the back, so you can use this as a tag that you are adding to a gift or in a journal or in Happy Mail if you want to send snail mail to someone. I am probably going to be sending some as well in some snail mail soon. I do have a video as well of a giveaway. It is currently open if you want to check it out. I will also link that below. Okay, so I've just gathered a few leftover bits here. I've got some of this nice string and then some, this is like a Tim Holtz wax style paper. I'm not even sure what to call it, but it feels like wax paper. So I'm prepping my area. I did use a little plate to put my, my candle on because it's hot. I don't want it to be just on a flat surface. So I thought I'd, protect whatever surface I'm working on. And then I'm just showing you guys different ways that I would, probably add these pieces to this little tag that I'm working on. But the main reason I wanted to share this video is because I thought I wanted to make the wax seals removable or in a way that I could use them somewhere else. But what I mean by that is the one you see here that's sort of hanging on its own, I made it so that I could use it as a sticker. And this way I can add this one anywhere I want in the future, and I don't have to pour it right onto the surface I'm working on at that moment. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to show you here. Look at how I stamped there. It looks so beautiful. I will be pouring some of the wax on one of these cards. And if you're not working on a flat surface, you'll see what happens. So this has a little bump because of the pocket, and you'll see how the wax is just running across the page. Of course, it's a liquid. So in order to avoid that in the future, I thought maybe I'll just make the wax seals on their own, or I can add them to a random piece of paper and then use that to add it to whatever project I'm working on. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a moment here. I'm just adding some more beads to my spoon. Another tip is my spoon was kind of dripping at the bottom after I poured my wax. So I had this piece of paper towel to wipe off the bottom of the spoon, because if I kept putting it up to the actual holder, it would start to burn the wax at the bottom. So keep that in mind when working with wax. Make sure the bottom of your spoon stays clear of wax. So here I am just grabbing a piece of paper, and I decided if I add the wax to the paper and kind of do the seal on it, then this piece of paper can now be used anywhere else, and it pours out nicely, and I've got my nice little stamp coming through, and it's not going to run like it did on the top right tag that I showed you guys. That's one thing that I, kind of didn't think of before, because if you've got just one piece of paper and you really want to make that look nice, if anything happens and it runs, it won't come out properly. So kind of prepping it beforehand might work better. Hence the sticker, the wax sticker idea here. I would use this piece of paper anywhere else now because the seal came out really nice, as you can see here. And it also only takes about a minute, I would say, to fully dry. But again, that depends on the surface that you're using. For example, this little wax sheet of paper, it took a little longer for it to dry because I think it was just, it kept it from drying too quickly. So I'll be adding the wax to this piece as well. And also because it's so thin, you will find that the paper itself can buckle. So another thing to keep in mind is depending on the type of paper you use, the paper itself might buckle because of the heat and the way the wax is adhering itself to the surface. So for example, here it wasn't quite ready to be taken out. I'm showing you again how if you've got your parchment paper, I would pour it right on the parchment paper, let it dry, and then I can remove it and use that somewhere else. So now I'm just playing with my tag again, and you can see just, you know, the different things that I'm thinking of adding to it here. I will be attaching this with some glue and then attaching one of my wax seal paper pieces to it so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say kind of stickers with the wax seal. So I'll be using this one here. If you guys have any tips on using your wax seal kits, let me know. Leave a comment below. These are things I kind of learned along the way using it, but if there are any better tips, for example, on, you know, using your spoon, here you can see the black bottom of the spoon, which is where the wax kind of set a little bit. So I'll have to clean that surface before I put it back on the element, or else it'll just kind of start to burn the wax at the bottom. And the spoon doesn't have a little spout where you can just pour it nicely out. It's just a spoon. So it drips when you kind of, you know, kind of bring it out of pouring whatever you were pouring. So that's something to keep in mind. So here I'm just adding a little bit of this. I think it's just a little bit of twine. And then one of the ones that I just showed you guys that I added the wax to one of the pieces of paper. And this is just how I would glue it on. It's easier to glue the wax seal when you have another surface at the bottom. So this is what I found with this. It's easier to glue it this way. It wouldn't adhere as well if you just added glue to the back of the wax seal. The only other way that I find it works is if you add double-sided tape to the wax itself, and then that tends to hang on to it a bit. But I found it so much easier to, you know, kind of glue it when there's a surface underneath it, like this this paper here. So see what I mean? If you pour your wax on a different surface that you will be adding to something else, it's much easier to control that way than just pouring it right onto the surface sometimes. In case you mess up, I kind of mess up a lot, so that's why I tend to, you know, kind of prepare things beforehand just in case. So here I'm just showing you how I would use this as a little pocket or a tuck spot. And then again, you know, it's nicely poured on this spot. I don't have to worry about it running on the page or not going where it's supposed to. So it turns out looking nicer. And then of course, you know, your tag, you can add that anywhere, in a pocket, etc. I just love how these are coming out with that handmade paper. It's just beautiful. And then of course I started using this one. I made this tag beforehand. That's kind of like my test tag, and just the same thing. I made sure to, for that one actually, I put the wax right on it and it seemed to work okay. So here I'm just showing you again using the wax on the wax paper, or the parchment paper I should say. You've got a better, easier way of moving it when you need to. So I'll just be making a few of the faux stickers with it, and this is not putting anything underneath the wax. So I'm pouring it directly onto my parchment paper, letting it dry. See the mess it makes? Oh, it's messy when it starts to get all dark when the wax drips onto the spoon. So I've got my parchment paper or baking paper. I'll be pouring the wax right onto that, letting it dry once I've got my stamp on it, and then you'll see how quickly that just kind of starts to peel off. and then I can use that on any other surface. And it's so relaxing to watch that wax just sort of drip from the spoon. And then here, I'll just leave it for a few minutes or for a minute or so, and it'll just be ready. And while I'm waiting for this one to set, I'll just add a couple more beads to the spoon and heat that up again. Now, I think I did mention I like the way that I mix the colors because there's a main color that is on the wax if I put like 2 of the red ones, but whatever was left over, I like it that it peeks through on the seal and it just gives it a nice kind of like marbled texture to it. So it really depends on how many colors you want to use, or if you want to stick to a theme of colors, it's up to you. But I like mixing them up. And then here you can see how easily it lifts up from the parchment paper. And now I can add that anywhere else that I want to. And I don't have to worry about the seal kind of not working because it poured nicely. So, and then I can add those again to my snail mail. If you put them on a piece of paper like I showed here, it's easy to add as well. I think it just makes for a really nice additional ephemera, and it looks really nice when it's finished. So I hope you guys are enjoying this little mini craft with me. Here I'm going to do another one. This one's, I think I did red beads on this one more than anything, and then it still has a little left over from something else, or from the last pour. Sorry about the bumpy camera. And then here I'll just, again, let it sit for about a minute or so. And then you can see how it's come out once it's finished setting in. I found that that you do have to sort of be careful not to rip it and to make sure that it's fully dry before you pull off the stamp. So I hope you guys enjoyed the share. I had so much fun working with this kit. I will be sharing some another project with BeeBee Craft products, as I mentioned. I've got some beads that I'm working with, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when I've got my next video up. Questions, comments, as always, please leave them below. If you want to still be part of my giveaway, it is still open, so go ahead and check that out. I will link that video below. And I can't wait to share some of these tags in my snail mail and to keep making some more fun projects with this the wax seal kit. Thanks so much for stopping by.